Hello viewers, I hope you are all fit and fine. Today we will be describing one of the important aspects of civil engineering. Rather you can say geotechnical engineering. Now what is geotechnical engineering? Actually this geo means earth and this technical means the techniques of the material that lie below the earth or within the earth, and engineering with those material is geotechnical engineering. So whenever we talked about geotechnical engineering, we have definitely to say the two aspects of geotechnical engineering. That is the one that is the transported soil and the other is the residual soil. The number one is the transported soil. The transported soil and number two is the residual soil. Now this transported soil depends upon the following carriers. Number one is water. Number two is wind. Number three is ice. Number four is a action due to gravity. This is gravity. And number five is the human activities. Human activities. Now, let us say about this ice. How ice play an important role in transporting this soil. Actually, a soil mechanics guy should not confine himself within the Indian context. He should concentrate globally. If you look about the Scandinavian countries or the Norwegian countries where there is no surface water, there is only ice. Actually, the water vapor that is deposited on the hills and the hillocks get converted into a snow. And as I have mentioned in my previous videos, that how the river attributes to the formation of sedimentary rock, in the same similar fashion, these vapors, water vapors that has been transported into the snow, after deposition of one layer of snow with the other layer followed by the other layer, there is a, due to the extreme low temperature and high pressure, this has converted to a very hard material. And when there is a difference of temperature or climatic condition, this hard material slides and it just hits to the other material in the form of avalanche, causing a disaster. And that is how in the area where there is no surface water, these ice play an important role in transporting the rocks that is fragmented or distorted by means of weathering. So the ice play an important role as a carrier for transported soil. Now, if you look at the attributes of the material that is transported, that is their shape, color, texture, the material that is transported by water is different with the material that is transported by wind. So the material that is transported by water goes through a number of time of washings in their whole life, and they had been converted into a very shiny particles. And as I have told in my previous videos, that the rocks that is formed in the Himalayas, that after the process of physical, chemical or microbial weathering, they got distorted and they started rolling by the abrasive action of the water. Actually, these water acts as an abrasive agents, and due to these abrasive actions, the huge rolling occurred into these distorted materials, and due to these various grinding effects, they have traveled the thousands and thousands of kilometers, and they came into the plains and traveled there also thousands and thousands of kilometers to the Gangetic plains, and ultimately they are deposited to the ocean. And in the process of these transportations, they have been transported to a very shiny particles, and their shape is more or less spherical in or you can say a sphere in a layman's language. And their surface area get reduced, and these the material that are not inert, they are very active material, and they have gathered a huge knowledge while in their transportation process during the grinding with whatever material, whatever obstructions they have faced. And that is why they are very much useful, and the sand is one of the characteristics, one of the part of this transported soil. And this sand is having a very high what is called pozzolanic content, and this is very useful in constructions. Whereas if you consider to the transported material that is carried by wind, there is a basic difference between that transported by water and wind. The material, distorted material after weathering that is transported by wind is very lighter in weight, or there is a difference in specific gravity of that material, but they are definitely not spherical, as they has not undergone that the grinding or the abrasive action that is done by the water. The water in that area where they had carried the distorting material has act as an abrasive agent, but in case of wind, that water is not there. They are not very shiny, they are muddy in appearance, and their texture is also very rough and uneven, but they are very light in weight. And that is the reason why sand dunes are formed. And these sand dunes get migrated from one part to another. An example of these sand dunes you can find in Jaisalmer, you can find in Barmer. And one of the most difficult task for this is the construction of any permanent structures, because these sand dunes get migrating from one place to another. Now, what are the problem with the pollution and NCR, and what the soil mechanics guy can do to solve it? Actually, the soil that is transported by this wind are very lighter in weight, and as a result, the sand dunes are formed. And these sand dunes, when come in contact with the air or the storm, they form a dust. And when they come in contact with the moisture, they form aerosol. So in summer, they form the sandy storm or the dusty storm, and in winter, they form aerosol. The process to deal with this is the same way as I have told in my earlier videos, that as the rock has turned into a soil, that is, the soil is formed from the rock, the rock has act as a parent material, and similarly, soil can also form a material similar like rock, that is called the rejuvenation of desert. That is the process how this pollution can be controlled. In the similar way, that is these sand dunes of the desert that can be converted in the similar way so that they can get transformed into the rock. So I have covered all the transporting material that is used for this transporting soil. That is, I have mentioned about the ice, I have mentioned about the water, I have mentioned about the wind and the gravity. This is a natural process, and the human activities, human beings are the most culprits who used to reclaim soil from the one place to other place, and how they used to prepare artificial islands and everything. I have already described all these things in my previous videos. If you have a keen interest on that, you can have a look at it. And regarding this geotechnical engineering, and now I am going to say about this residual soil. This residual soil. So now these residual soils are those who are not allowed to go outside. They have born in the same place. They have attained the youth in the same place. They attained seniority in the same place, and ultimately they got disintegrated in the same place. So this disintegration has taken place due to this microbial or biological weathering. And this microbial or biological weathering has the involvement of lot of bacteria and other microorganisms, and they produces a gas that is rich in hydrocarbons. And the hydrocarbons, the economy of the country depends on these hydrocarbons. So these residual soil are very rich in hydrocarbons, and they act as an important reservoirs for the hydrocarbon basins. So as a geotechnical engineering, this is my request to the aspirants who are practicing a civil engineering or who are starting in the civil engineering field. They should give utmost importance in this geotechnical engineering field. There are a lot of R&Ds are going in this geotechnical engineering. There is also a very high prospect in this geotechnical engineering field. So if you were engineer and you were given with the two type of soil, that is, one is transported soil and the other is this residual soil, you can change your character. If you are dealing with a transported soil, so then you can be a good building engineer, because transported soil is a very rich content in construction material due to its pozzolanic activities. And now when you are dealing with this residual soil, then you will help the guy who are in the field of exploration of hydrocarbons. So that is the reason how a geotechnical engineers can earn both ways. And similarly, this is the art of practicing geotechnical engineering. So I hope all of you have understood what I have tried to explain in this video. The other thing I will like to mention, as we are advancing to this prosperous Diwali, so I will request all my viewers to use this type of potteries while going for the Diwali. These are made by our Indian pottery makers, and this is also one of the applications of the geotechnical engineering. As I have mentioned in my earlier videos that while defining a soil, how can you define a soil? Soil may be defined as attributes of the function of the professions, and so this is also the one of the professions I have mentioned there as the number one, that is the pottery making. So these are the very beautiful type of pots, the pottery they are making. So this time let's use this type of potteries. Please avoid crackers, and this is one of the important request from my end. I hope you have enjoyed my video. So this is Devada Chakraborty signing out till we meet again.